WWE has a global stranglehold on the wrestling industry. Nobody will come close to the level of reach that WWE has, but even then, there's still a strong interest to strengthen that global reach. Plans were in motion for WWE to expand in India. They had shows there every once in a while, and even though wrestling is possibly popular there, it wasn't at the level that it could be. I don't know how things are in India, but by the looks of it, they really like wrestling. 2017 was intended to be a major year for WWE's international affairs. A big focus was on India. WWE Shop was launched in the country in March of 2017, the WWE Network as well, and with all these developments, WWE decided to push an Indian wrestler, Jinder Mahal. Jinder Mahal had only returned to WWE after a 2-year stint on the Indies in August of 2016. Mahal's time on Raw showed no sign of a potential push. SmackDown after WrestleMania 33, though, changed things. On the April 18th, 2017 episode of SmackDown, Shane McMahon booked a 6-pack challenge with the winner getting a title shot against Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. A very high energy match with very few contenders. If you look at it for that time period's perspective, there was only 2 real challengers, Luke Harper and Sami Zayn, but it was neither. Hell, it wasn't even Dolph Ziggler. It was Jinder Mahal. The Singh brothers made their debut and helped him score the victory. One of the biggest surprises of 2017, this guy was a 74 overall wrestler. It was very reminiscent of JBL. The fans booed, and he claimed it was because of his background, his wealth, the fact that he could speak 2 languages. And the Americans don't accept diversity, but they will be forced to accept him as the WWE champion. This was crazy. Not the fact that he won the title, but the fact that he became the #1 contender, because it just came from out of nowhere, and there was more likely challengers, such as Luke Harper and Sami Zayn. Like, it just wouldn't be expected of Jinder Mahal to win the title, or even challenge for the title, let alone. Randy Orton interrupted. He congratulated Jinder, but told him that his prize won't be this title. The prize was an RKO from the champion. He wanted to focus on Jinder, but his real problem was with Bray Wyatt at the moment. That's a story for another day, but with regards to Jinder, it was shocking. It was so strange how he was a big challenger. Orton wasn't able to deviate away from Mahal because he refused to let him give others attention. He called himself the House of Horror and promised to take the title. He's got more wealth, class, and culture than the fans. Jinder had a very strong disdain for Orton and the fans. They look at him as if he's beneath them. He gave his fans a message and attacked. The Bollywood boys once again made the save and overpowered the WWE champion. He even took the title afterwards. It was practically set in stone at this point. The plans were in motion for Jinder Mahal to win the title. This man was posing with the belt like it was his prized possession, and Shane ended up taking it away from him, and in the build to Backlash, Jinder continued to maintain his momentum. He cost Orton his match with Bray Wyatt at Payback, and the champion was hell-bent on returning the favor. WWE made tremendous strides in giving Mahal a certain aura, and all it takes is a suit and some goons. Of course, he needed the look, because without that, this stuff falls on its head. This man's storyline was so confident he was winning that he already posed with the belt. This is a new one I heard of, somebody posing with a title. He was confidently telling everyone that he will bring this title back to his people, and they'll erect a statue in respect to him. The new face of America interrupted, and this led to a 6-man tag team match. Jinder Mahal once again made good on his intentions and beat Randy Orton. From Orton's perspective, it doesn't come down to racism from the fans. That's not the case. It's because he's an ass. Jinder for the final time told Orton what's to come before Samir and Sanil ran in and attacked. This was a setup which once again allowed for Jinder Mahal to drop the Viper with the Kalas, or as it's actually called, the Khalas. This was a very one-sided build, with WWE doing everything they can to treat Jinder Mahal like a huge threat. Orton never had a strong moment in this build, not even one. As an overall wrestler though, this was a very strange choice to give this push to Jinder Mahal, because he was a serviceable wrestler. That said, he could talk a bit, had the look, and could carry himself well, and most importantly, he had the India element by his side, because without that, most likely than not, he probably wouldn't have gotten this push. And those things will take you very far, especially in 2017. And with the suit, the backup guys, it kind of legitimizes him in a way. And I remember Backlash 2017, heading into it, you believed he would win it, but at the same time, it was unbelievable. So with that said, Orton quickly went on the attack right before the match began. Jinder was overwhelmed with his high-octane main event pace that was entirely foreign to him. By the time Jinder was physically prepared, Orton had done a considerable amount of damage physically and most importantly, mentally. He resorted to slowing down the pace and suffocating Orton on the defense. Quick stomps, rest holds, and a strong focus on the arm. In doing so, Jinder neutered most of Randy Orton's offense, which involved the use of space for the Viper to navigate. And the very moment he deviated away from that, Orton took advantage. Jinder here reminds me of those underdog teams that stand no chance but manage to make it far in the game, and with that mistake, it's slowly falling apart for them. As evident by this, he was more and more desperate to neutralize Orton that he didn't realize he was swimming in uncharted waters with a long-time main eventer. Mahal did have a moment, but other than that, it was all Orton. The Singh brothers got involved in this distraction, opened way for Jinder to do nothing and receive an RKO. The Bollywood boys once again got involved, and Orton sent them back to 2016, and this was an iconic moment. It's more iconic than it's expected to be because of how Orton just flips him backwards. He just rolls in the air. It was crazy. Orton drops him with the DDT, and Jinder capitalizes with the Kalash 1, 2, 3. Stunning. This to me is probably the most shocking thing that happened in the last 6 years. It's somewhat expected, but the moment it happened, once the bell rang and the ref counted to 3, that contradicted everything. Buddy Rogers, Billy Graham, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Bret Hart, Stone Cold, The Undertaker, The Rock, John Cena, and Jinder Mahal's on that list of names that won the WWE Championship. Not to mention, Jinder Mahal was the 50th WWE Champion as well. What the hell? Nah, I remember that day very well. I was stunned. It's the most unimaginable world title victory in recent years. Sheamus in 2009 and Jinder Mahal in 2017. This also leads to another question. If WWE could push somebody this hard with zero reaction only 2 months ago with that talent, what could they do with someone relatively popular? Because to me, this proves that they have the capabilities to push almost anybody as long as they have competent skills. With that said, there will never be a world title victory as shocking as Jinder's. Yes, it was kind of expected, but would you have bet on it? Gun to the back of your head, would you back them to actually have Jinder win? He was never a mid-carder beforehand, let alone an IC champion, so how the hell would you actually expect them to book him, of all people, to win the title? It was crazy. The match itself was a bit better than I remember it being. I actually enjoyed it here. Why? They seemed to mask a bit of Mahal's weaknesses with the interferences, and I really liked the pace. It didn't overstay its welcome and was a bit different from the usual WWE main event with the kickouts and all that stuff. Although watching this title reign, I began to miss some of that. Jinder Mahal was now the WWE champion, and the presentation only improved with the belt. He had a Punjabi celebration later that week on SmackDown. The thing about Jinder Mahal is, without a single thought, you're like, yeah, he is the world champion. If you knew nothing about wrestling, you'd be thinking to yourself, Jinder Mahal is the world champion. He looks like one. Now, doing something foreign like this is easily a way to get booed by the crowd. That's what they did here. The champion complained about how the people boo him for being exposed as fools for not believing he could win the title. Orton's on the decline while Jinder, is the greatest WWE champion of all time. It was a celebration from Punjab for India, and once again, he wanted to speak in Punjabi. Remember JBL's Pyro in 2007? They kinda did it here again. Jinder Mahal was their guy, and they were going above and beyond to push him as the next big thing. Randy Orton, on the other hand, finally returned the following week. It was confirmed he was getting his title shot at Money in the Bank. He said that his grandfather would slap him for losing to some jobber like Jinder Mahal. He didn't say the jobber part. And this is where the problems with this title reign occur. Orton made mention of doing things the American way. I'll dive into that later. Orton thought Jinder didn't earn anybody's respect. All he earned was an ass kicking. Money in the Bank is in St. Louis. He can't show his face if he loses. Orton didn't want to talk. He wanted to prove it. Jinder interrupted, and again he called him an ignorant American who tells stories about a bygone era, talking about how he should behold him or something like that. We're not gonna length pad this video. He ended up ending the promo there, left. With that said, Jinder Mahal's biggest problem in this title reign was the nationalism. We'll talk about it later. Jinder continued promising to dismantle Orton's dreams of winning the title in his hometown and placed a huge emphasis on USA. At the final SmackDown before Money in the Bank, Jinder Mahal and Randy Orton had one final confrontation. Same promo from Jinder. USA chants though intensify. Orton interrupted from out of nowhere and dropped him with an RKO, and this was probably the first time Orton had won over Mahal in the build. The Viper wasn't interested in talking. His actions speak for themselves. The build to the match was very simple again, except this time around, Jinder was starting to become more aggressive against the American fans. It was an us, USA versus them, foreigner thing. Orton had a tremendous reception from the crowd, and this match was very similar to Backlash. Orton overwhelmed Jinder with a fast-paced action, which he wasn't accustomed to. Heel distraction, and Jinder takes advantage. This time around, he targeted the leg. Pace was slowing down, and me talking about it, I'd have you believing I was talking about Backlash. The only thing different was the leg. He locked in the figure four, provoking Ric Flair on the outside, and attempted a superplex, provoking Orton's father, Bob Orton. But he failed and opened the way for the challenger, who made no mistaking pushing up the tempo. RKO, but the Singh brothers put Jinder's foot on the rope. They were ejected and decided to provoke Orton's father. This only caused him to go off the deep end and obliterate them. These poor guys are always getting destroyed with these spots. Once Orton gets back in, Jinder takes advantage with the Kalash and retains the title. I didn't like this one. It was too similar to their Backlash match, and Jinder's work was uninspiring, not to mention the layout was the same. That said, they did a decent job of masking his shortcomings. Orton sold the pain well, and this match, if placed 10 years ago, would have been even better. It's just personally, I didn't like that match. Another reason is the previous title matches before this title reign. AJ Styles and John Cena, and all those matches didn't need a lot of smoke and mirrors to them. That's my problem with this match, you know, like Jinder, he needed a lot going up with him in order for his matches to work. Randy Orton was only getting more and more frustrated with how things were going. He was upset with beating himself and alluded to this being Jinder's strategy. The Viper was more and more aggressive and even willing to get personal. Orton dished out a brutal assault that humbled Mahal, and at this point it was still not confirmed that he had a rematch. So he was out to torture the champion and make his life a living hell, all to get the rematch. Shane McMahon had to interrupt and calm things down. That didn't work initially. Orton was driven by pure emotion. Shane gave him his rematch, but that wasn't it. Jinder Mahal gets to choose the stipulation. The champion came out and said this was an example of what's wrong with Randy Orton and the fans, and he revealed that the match was going to be a Punjabi prison match. Mahal continued to further push the idea that he was hated based on racism, and he thought he had the advantage in the Punjabi prison, but Orton assured him that wasn't the case. It's further from the truth. He said that nobody likes Jinder, not for what he comes from, but because he's a jackass. Okay. On the final SmackDown before Battleground, the Punjabi prison was brought up. Oh, I'm gonna punish Randy Orton, modern day Maharaja. Orton thought he was either the bravest or the stupidest. He couldn't understand Jinder wanting to be caged up with him of all people. He's isolated away from his advantage of having the Singh brothers. For Orton, there's nothing left to lose. The same can be said for Jinder Mahal. 1.3 billion people on his shoulders. He didn't even bother fighting, preferring to save it until Sunday. Yeah, they had this thing about Jinder Mahal where they were promoting him as the leader of India, basically. I don't know why. Well, actually, I know why, obviously, but I personally prefer if they went in a different direction. That said, his promos are a bit of the same here. They're a bit repetitive. That's why I made it short. Like, oh, I'm gonna punish Randy Orton, Monday Maharaja, all that stuff. Because that's what he was saying for 10 minutes. It was the same stuff. A big part of this feud was USA versus India, basically, which was already a feud below with Cena and Rusev, USA versus Bulgaria. I personally don't like how Jinder had to be an evil foreigner. It's a cliche, generic story that limited him in some ways. This build, in my opinion, lacked fire as well. It was pretty soft for what the feud was. Orton attacks once, but after that, it's just Jinder being angry and proclaiming himself to be the victor. With that said, this match is very infamous. Now, a Punjabi prison match is extremely hard to execute. Great concept, very interesting, but there's a reason the match doesn't happen often. With Orton and Mahal, it had some nice spots, but after the first few moments, it got dull. It drags for a bit before they climb over the first cage. Again, it got old quickly. Orton's spots with the Bollywood boys were amazing. Those guys always went above and beyond to destroy themselves, and it seemed all but over for Orton to reclaim the gold, when all of a sudden, the Great Khali returned. Great Khali was the one who invented this match, and this guy came out 94 overall like it was 2006 and cost Orton the title. Hell, he even held it for a moment. The match to me was never going to be as good as it's imagined. You know, that's the biggest problem with the Punjabi prison. It's expected to be this huge grand match, but it's never going to be that because it's a bit hard to execute. In this version's case, they tried. You know, you could clearly see that they tried, but Mahal was a bit limited, and number two, the concept in itself was limited. Later that week on SmackDown, Jinder Mahal was looking forward to SummerSlam. He claimed Orton underestimated him and was ready to stay champion for as long as he likes. All of a sudden, John Cena interrupted. The champion tried to predict what Cena would say, but it was none of that. Instead, he wanted to congratulate him and tell him that at SummerSlam, he was becoming the 17-time champion. Daniel Bryan, though, told him that opportunities are earned, and a match between John Cena and Shinsuke Nakamura was made, with the winner facing Jinder Mahal at SummerSlam for the title. Now, this is a very bizarre match and an even more bizarre prize. Jinder Mahal is the champion, and John Cena and Shinsuke Nakamura are fighting to face him for the title. And for a dream match, this certainly met expectations, especially for a SmackDown match. They couldn't go all out due to the setting, but I really enjoyed watching. This was during my disappearance from wrestling arc. I knew this match happened, but didn't watch it until March of 2018. I kind of regret not seeing it then, but I certainly didn't regret the other things happening at the time. Nakamura ended up winning, and back then, beating Cena was a bigger deal. Mahal, meanwhile, was busy losing to Randy Orton. With Indian Independence Day coming up, Jinder Mahal decided to celebrate and also address Shinsuke Nakamura. He called the fans xenophobic and continued with his traditions. They were all riled up and Shinsuke Nakamura had to interrupt. He said Independence Day in India is the same day as SummerSlam, where he loses the title. Later that night, the WWE Champion was on the verge of losing the title during his match with John Cena, and the match saw Jinder take a super AA when Baron Corbin ran in and decided to cash in. He ended up losing the cash in, and this was insane at the time. This guy was getting pushed hard, and just like that, he says some stuff in the back, and they end his push. Man! That was unfortunate for Baron Corbin. Dry build again. Me personally, I would have preferred to see John Cena face him because I feel like with Shinsuke it was a bit too soon. John Cena, they could have gotten a little bit more out of it with the promos and the story in itself. They didn't do that with Shinsuke Nakamura. The match at SummerSlam belonged on SmackDown. I watched it here and man, it left a lot to be desired. For one, this was the world title match for SummerSlam and it didn't have that energy. It was boring and very generic. Jinder was doing the basic stuff. Everyone knew what he was going to do and how he was going to do it, and of course the interference. The best part of this match is realizing that this fatal 4-way was next. Jinder retained, which was kind of shocking. Not really, but it highlighted a huge problem with his title reign, the lack of great matches. The best match that involved him was Cena and Nakamura, and he was involved watching it from the stands, but this was the beginning of the end. At this point, a lot of fans realized, hey, this title reign isn't as good as WWE wanted it to be. It was very disappointing, it was very underwhelming, and it was clear that there was some problems with pushing a guy from the lower card straight to the main event scene with no character development, no build-up, because he won the title within a month. Dan and Bryan thought that Shinsuke Nakamura deserved another title shot and booked the Singh brothers in a match with the King of Strong Style. They got destroyed and Mahal took the Kinshasa. The champion was feeling more and more disrespected to the point where he demanded reverence. The Singh brothers felt they wronged Jinder and the great continent of Asia. They were about to kiss his feet when Shinsuke Nakamura interrupted. Saved by the bell, or saved by the song in this case. He treated the Singh brothers like they were jobbers and brawled with Jinder. They got to him and Randy Orton had to make the save. Rusev runs in and drops Orton, leading to a tag team main event. Mahal, though, in the meantime, dropped Nakamura with the Kalas. This didn't mean much by the end of the night, though, because Shinsuke Nakamura rebounded and beat Rusev to stand tall. Despite losing, Jinder wasn't the last man down, as Orton RKO'd Nakamura, signaling he wanted his title shot. Jinder Mahal claimed he was a better representative of Asia than Shinsuke Nakamura, and he had to face Orton in the #1 contenders match. He succeeded, so he went to the drawing board. He decided to make jokes about him. Man, Jinder had no joke for him to be choked up on his ass like that. Like, come on. He tried to trick the fans into laughing about Nakamura and the way he looks and acts to make them look racist. And he also tried to convince Nakamura not to become the champion of these people because deep down, they don't like him either. He took it a step further the following week. Mahal made fun of his angry face, his artistic face, and said he always looks the same. Actually, he looks the same is what he said. Nakamura chants intensify, but that wasn't it. He claimed the fans believe he gets his haircut by a dog groomer and called him Mr. Miyagi. That's too far, chant intensifies, so trying to prove the crowd is racist exposed Jinder as the true one in storyline. He tried to live through the fans and in turn, he proved who he truly was. That said, this promo caused controversy, and of course when WWE is on the news, it's not because John Cena won a match. So they were talked about for a bit, talking about how WWE was racist, something along the lines of that. And a lot of people were upset by this promo because it didn't really need to happen. Not to mention Jinder's run was not viewed in the best way, so adding this to it kind of makes things even worse. The following week, Jinder opted to compliment the artist, and there was more of those jokes. It was the same as the last 3 weeks. On the final image, it turns out Nakamura was there. He came out, took out all 3 men, and dropped Mahal with the Kinshasa. On the final SmackDown before Hell in a Cell, Shinsuke Nakamura gave his final thoughts. When asked about Jinder's remarks, Shinsuke said, "Sticks and stones." You know the rest. The Bollywood boys interrupted and introduced the champion who attacked from behind. The 3 men overwhelmed Nakamura and Jinder hit the Kalas. A very dull build again. Jinder's stories were getting worse as time went on because at this point they ran out of stories for him and it was just generic, "You Americans, da 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 da." And it was so dry, it was so forgettable, and at this point everyone was over the title reign. And that's the thing, they did not really think about this thing beyond the evil foreigner, which shouldn't have happened in the first place. Yeah, they could have been the champion of India, this and that, but I don't think they should have gone the evil foreigner route because it was his first title reign. It's a cliche, it's an old story, it's been done before, and it's rarely been done good in the modern era. Jinder Mahal at this point was not a good champion. People didn't really like him that much. Now, this wasn't a now or never moment for Shinsuke Nakamura. Hell no, but it was a great opportunity to do something with him. Hell in a Cell is the same story though. He dominated with a slow pace, and very similar to Jinder's previous matches, he isolated the left shoulder and it took a while for the challenger to fight back. The Singh brothers were ejected again and it seemed more and more likely for Shinsuke to win. He hit the Kinshasa but the ref took too long and Mahal grabbed the bottom rope. He countered the second one and hit the Kalas to retain the title. If Shinsuke kicked out there, that would have been amazing, but they had other plans. A little better than SummerSlam, but it wasn't memorable. Now, a big expectation was for Jinder to walk in to WWE's India tour in December with the title, and that was what was expected. He visited the country at one point, posed with the belt, and it seemed like he was going to return there with the very same title. Jinder's ego continued growing as he wanted the fans to bow down before him. AJ Styles though had a problem with this. He mentioned how Jinder had yet to beat him and the champion called AJ Styles delusional and got attacked. Out here worried about Brock Lesnar when AJ Styles is in front of him. That match was set for Survivor Series with John Cena potentially being the special referee for that match, but plans were scrapped. Paul Heyman meanwhile said Mahal is not Brock Lesnar's equal, even said he isn't worthy of being a pretender WWE champion. And these sentiments were apparently shared in real life. So AJ Styles was placed in an even more prominent position, especially after doing a SmackDown show in Chile and flying the very next day to TLC to face Finn Balor in an amazing match. He went from Chile all the way to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and had an amazing match of the night probably, against the Demon Finn Balor. They looked at him a bit differently. He was already respected, but this was something else. Styles beat both of the Singh brothers and earned a title shot against Jinder Mahal. He attacked after the second match and left Styles beaten and battered. The match between AJ Styles and Jinder Mahal was set for the November 7th, 2017 episode of SmackDown. Manchester, England was very unaware of what was to come. And remember, Jinder's matches weren't the best, but this is 2017 AJ Styles we're talking about. This man will give a TV remote a good match. So when you have a human that actually knows how to go between the ropes, what the hell do you expect? Like, just tell me, what do you expect with AJ Styles in 2017? He's gonna have a good match. Jinder's strategy was strength. AJ was unable to overcome this big hurdle in the beginning. Mahal was simply untouchable without separation. So AJ used that blistering pace to make space and accomplish nothing because Mahal was simply too powerful. It was a struggle to get back in the match, let alone create something. Styles had to channel that aggression to finally chop down the big guy. AJ was more grounded during this part of the match, and it was doing him wonders. He locked in the calf crusher and forced Jinder to crawl to the ropes. Lethal kicks and strikes, but all Mahal had to do was hit a clothesline. Jinder had lost the strong grip on the match and was becoming more and more prone to aerial attacks, unlike earlier. 450, the Singh brothers interfered and AJ took them out before taking the Kalas. 1, 2, no! AJ put his foot on the rope, and I believe this was the very first time that AJ Styles or anybody kicked out of the Kalas or evaded a loss after taking the Kalas. The fans were excited and hyped at this point. He bumps him off the ropes, and AJ finally hits the phenomenal forearm. 1, 2, 3. New champion. Great match. Jinder's offense was at its best here, with Styles selling well and bumping around, making him look like a huge champion. That's the big difference here. Jinder did go to work, and obviously some of his work was the same, but with AJ Styles selling, making him look a bit more dangerous than he already was, it helped tremendously and elevated him in some ways during this match. It was great stuff, and in my opinion, the best match from this title reign. They didn't really need to use a lot of the shenanigans and the smoke and mirrors with Jinder Mahal here, because AJ Styles sold well and did his part of the match very well. You know, Jinder showed up, but AJ Styles showed up a bit more. Great stuff. Styles won the title, which meant he was going to face Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series 2017. That title reign is a story for another day, but with regards to Jinder Mahal, this was not a good run. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you or say anything. There's a reason why I didn't watch SmackDown a lot in 2017, and it was this title reign. It wasn't the main reason. Like, I'm gonna be honest here, that was not the main reason. It's because the product as a whole on SmackDown was very dull. When you look at the women's division at this time, they used to pair all 6 women in these backstage segments, and nothing was going on. It just wasn't interesting. But watching Jinder's title reign here, I learned that his presentation is even better than I remembered it being. I already remember it being good, him coming out and having this angry look on his face. He looked amazing. Matches, though, left a lot to be desired. As for his character work, they limited him. Now, obviously, WWE knew what they were going into, but they realized, hey, we should make him an evil foreigner, which I personally didn't like because it took away a little bit more and it made him a bit more generic. I personally think they should have made him the champion of India, but not an evil foreigner way, you know? Like, he kind of represents India and whatnot, but at the end of the day, he's a heel. I think they should have gone that route, but the evil foreigner thing was just bad. I didn't like it. And it was a failed experiment. WWE wanted something from Jinder Mahal, but they didn't get it because sales in India, the tour, they weren't interested. And one of the reasons they weren't interested was because Mahal was a heel. A lot of the fans there are very old school. They like baby faces like John Cena and, of course, Roman Reigns. Like, Roman Reigns is mega popular in India by the looks of it. Like, ever since I know about wrestling in India, I always hear they like Roman Reigns there. Every time you hear about wrestling in India, they loved Roman Reigns in 2017 a lot. I remember back then, they were dying for Roman Reigns. So why would they care about a heel even though he's from the same country? Because at the end of the day, he's a heel. They're not going to like him. I will say it's nice that WWE tried something new. That's something positive. They tried something new here, but it wasn't what they expected it to be. When they did the India tour later on, he lost to Triple H. He lost to Triple H and bowed down before him. Like, he couldn't even win in his home country, even though he became the champion. It's a house show, obviously, so I'm not going to over-exaggerate things. But yeah, I think it's unfortunate, but glad to see Jinder Mahal himself earn a WWE Championship reign. It's kind of bizarre, it's kind of weird, but I'm sure the man was very, very excited about it. He had the look. They backed him a lot, but making him the generic character in the limited matches he had, it wasn't going to work. We can't forget to give credit to these two. These two did everything well. Plus, their selling was ridiculous. They made every wrestler look like $1 million, including Jinder Mahal and his opponents he faced. Everybody. So yeah. Alright, what did you guys think of Jinder Mahal's title reign? Please comment down below, and that's it for this video. Make sure you hit the close on the like button and perhaps the coloss on the subscribe button. Peace. I'm out.